Firstpost reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alison Lagrange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global south. Join me every weekday live on Firstpost. Hello and welcome to Firstpost Africa, where we get you the top stories from the continent and from across the world. I'm Alison Lagrange, coming to you live from Durban, South Africa. First, let's take a look at the headlines. Iran says US President-elect Donald Trump must put an end to Israel's aggression in Gaza. Tehran says Trump should work toward ending the genocide against Palestinians. France deploys over 4,000 police officials in Paris ahead of the country's football match with Israel on Friday. This after pro-Palestine groups in France warn Israeli football fans from attending the match. The United Nations Climate Summit COP29 begins in Azerbaijan's capital Baku. Close to 200 countries pledged to establish a climate finance fund for developing countries, reaching $1 trillion annually. Mali's military junta arrests the CEO and 2 other executives of Australia's gold mining company called Resurgent Mining. The Australian firm holds an 80% stake in one of Mali's largest gold mines. And Burkina Faso's military regime to reinstate the death penalty after the West African nation abolished it in 2018. The last execution in Burkina Faso was carried out in 1988. Following a failed coup. Hello and welcome. Let's take a look at our top story. Our focus for today is Mauritius. Now, Prime Minister of the Indian Ocean island nation of Mauritius, Pravind Jugnauth, has conceded defeat in the general elections that were held on Sunday. Reports suggest, while speaking to journalists on Monday, he said that his party, the Alliance Le Peuple Coalition, was headed for a big defeat in the elections and that the Mauritian people had chosen another team to lead the country. The island country had conducted polls to elect a new parliament just yesterday. The polls saw over 1 million people cast their votes for the unicameral National Assembly, which has a total of 70 seats. Now, Prime Minister Pravind Jugnauth, who belongs to the Militant Socialist Movement, or the MSM, was in a tight contest with his main opposition rival, Navin Ramgoolam, from the Alliance of Change Coalition Party. And both the leaders had said on Sunday that their political blocs had triumphed in the legislative poll.
Even though the opposition has caused much trouble to destabilize the voting period, I am confident that I will be victorious. I will spend the rest of the day visiting the voting stations in my constituency.
Very pleased. Because of the bad weather, the number of voters was very low, but it started to pick up later in the day. As I said, we're going to celebrate a great victory.
However, as counting of the ballots began on Monday, initial trends showcased that the opposition was heading toward forming a majority in the National Assembly. While the final results have yet to be officially released, reports suggest that opposition's Navin Ramgoolam is poised to take over. This meaning he will take over the post of Prime Minister for the 3rd time as the head of his Alliance of Change Coalition. The opposition coalition also includes the Linolian Reform Alliance, whose leaders, Nando Bora and Rashi Badian, who reportedly plan to alternate as prime ministers. However, that arrangement is based only on reports, and only the final results will dictate how the opposition will govern the country. Now, the Prime Minister's decision to concede comes after several controversies erupted in the lead-up to the elections in Mauritius. The 2024 general elections were clouded by a wiretapping scandal that erupted just last month and saw secretly recorded phone calls of politicians, diplomats and journalists being leaked online. Seeking to keep a lid on the scandal, the authorities announced a social media ban until after the election, before making an embarrassing climb down in the face of opposition and media outrage. The scandal dented the Pravind Jugnauth-led government's historic deal and milestone last month, in which the former colonizer Britain relinquished sovereignty of the remote Chagos Islands to Mauritius, following a long-running legal dispute. Now, while Mauritius has been considered a successful story in Africa for its relatively stable democracy, concerns around the state of the country had also begun to emerge ahead of the elections. Mauritius had forecast 6.5% economic growth this year, compared with 7% last year. But reports suggest that many voters were not feeling the economic benefits of that growth. Some of the most prominent issues that the citizens were keeping in mind while voting included the rising cost of living, crime and drugs in the country, growing corruption, the prevalence of nepotism, the existence of unemployment, gender inequality, and issues of civil liberty. In a bid to woo more voters, Prime Minister Jugnauth's alliance, the Le Peuple coalition, promised to raise minimum wages, to increase pensions and reduce value-added tax on some basic goods. But all of that failed to garner interest from the voters. On the other hand, opposition also pledged to increase pensions, as well as introduce free transport and internet services and to reduce fuel prices. Now, the general elections on Sunday saw a voter turnout of about 80%. Several voters, including some first-timers, queued outside the polling stations to cast their votes on Sunday.
I feel really responsible for voting, and it is my first time voting today. And I feel proud to have shown and expressed my voice, and I think the youth has the right to express their voice by voting.
So it's my first time voting, and I'm very happy to have the chance to be able to have my vote count, and I hope that everyone here in Mauritius is going today to vote.
I have voted today to do my job as a citizen, and I think that we need a change in the country.
Yet reports suggest that police had to be stationed in polling stations across Mauritius to ensure the security of the vote, while a number of international observers, including the African Union, monitored the electoral process. But despite that, several incidents of unrest were reported. Some officials were assaulted in a constituency near the capital city of Port Louis, according to reports. Now, this prompted several leaders, including Prime Minister Jugnauth and opposition Navin Ramgoolam, to call for calm and peace during the counting of votes on Monday. Now, the U.S. Embassy in Mauritius had also warned its citizens currently in the island nation on Monday to be cautious of the likely celebrations that are expected to erupt once results are declared by Monday evening. But with Prime Minister Pravind Jugnauth losing the Iron Throne of Mauritius, it is yet to be seen how the new Prime Minister handles his predecessor's legacy and handles the cost of living crisis that has gripped the island country. To discuss more on this, we have with us Ruqaiya Kasanali, a political analyst who is joining us live from Mauritius. Thank you for being with us on this broadcast.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the background story, which provides an interesting context to. Mauritius is a very interesting country. Yet, although it's small, it's very complex in terms of its political sort of setup. as we speak now, I mean, results have not been yet made official, although the outgoing Prime Minister has conceded defeat and saying that it's going to be a big defeat on his alliance. And what's important is that this particular outgoing government has been in power for 10 good years, the Mouvement Socialiste Militant. They came to power in December 2014. And I think what is interesting to note, and I think it was highlighted in your report, that this particular government, outgoing government, has been rocked by a number of scandals, corruption, nepotism, but more importantly, we've seen the backsliding in terms of democratic backsliding of the island, once known as the democratic lighthouse in Africa. Today it moved away from its liberal democracy status in 2014, and today it is identified and classified as an electoral autocracy. So
captures. Okay, let's jump. I just want to jump in there. What were some of the key concerns that were raised by the public and opposition leaders regarding some of the scandals, as an example, the wiretapping scandal? And how has it influenced the political landscape in Mauritius?
I think the wiretapping came into the picture of the political campaign some 10 days, 14 days ago. And it was a game changer, I must say, because initially it was dismissed as, and the Prime Minister mentioned that it was doctored by artificial intelligence. A lot of people were questioning the veracity or the authenticity. But as the various wiretapping came into it trickled in, people started to realize the ampleur of some of the content. We are talking about conversations between the Commissioner of Police and ministers about police brutality, interference from higher level, corruption-related material, and the list goes on and on. So people started to get very alarmed by the level of what one would say state capture into the doings and happening of the Mauritian state. So I think that shocked a lot of people, and a lot of people were quietly sharing between themselves the content. And I think following of the wiretapping gained momentum, and it gained momentum at a time when on the 1st of November, there was a social ban that was imposed. And that social ban was imposed when, the wiretapping content gained a lot of traction. And a lot of Mauritians, young Mauritians especially, felt extremely concerned about the social ban, because they felt directly concerned that their digital, civil, and political liberties and rights were being reined in massively.
Right. Rukai, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us on Firstpost Africa and for your valued insights on all the latest on the Mauritian elections.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Shifting focus to Morocco in North Africa, where a debate is ongoing over the Israel-Hamas war. It's about the religious sermons that talk about the war. The debate centers on whether Islamic preachers or imams in Morocco should be allowed to give sermons which invoke jihad in regard to the conflict in West Asia. Some politicians and activists in Morocco have been voicing their concerns over the limitations being imposed by the Moroccan government on preachers on what they can or cannot say about the war. Such concerns were also raised in Moroccan parliament this week, with lawmakers claiming that imams in Morocco have been restrained to speak in support of Palestinians. However, Morocco's Minister of Islamic Affairs has pushed back on these claims. He said imams are welcome to denounce the Israeli aggression. However, he defended the prohibition on calls for jihad. Now, jihad is an Arabic word which means struggle or effort. In its most general meaning, it refers to live in accordance with the path of God, which could be achieved by internally finding one's faith or building a good Islamic society. However, it is also interpreted in a more militant term as a holy war, where the use of force is deemed necessary. Now, this term has come into use as a religious concept since the Soviet-Afghan War in 1979, when it was used to recruit volunteers to fight. The Moroccan minister cautioned about the multiple interpretations of jihad and said that putting limitations on its calls is necessary. Morocco, which is working to position itself as a non-radical Islamic nation, does not allow religious sermons being overtly political. Because imams in the Arab nation are employed by the state and are connected to the government. But critics do not see the regulations as an effort to curb extremism, as questions arise on Morocco's stance on the ongoing war in West Asia. Morocco is among the 4 Arab nations who normalized ties with Israel by signing the historic Abraham Accords, a series of bilateral agreements brokered by Donald Trump in his first term as U.S. president in 2020. Along with Morocco, the UAE, Sudan and Bahrain also signed the deal and normalized ties with Israel. However, Moroccans have protested against this move. Since the Israel-Hamas war broke out last year, tens of thousands of Moroccans have hit the streets of major cities in the country, protesting Israel's actions and demanding the cutting of diplomatic ties.
We are gathered here to condemn the crimes committed by Israel, in particular the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh. This heinous act cannot go unpunished. We must confront all those who have normalized relations with Israel, because it is the enemy of people and has no future.
These protests have also united opposition politicians in Morocco who have joined hands with banned radical Islamist outfits in the country. So from what it appears, Morocco's foreign policy stance on Israel is creating internal troubles and rifts among its population. But will Rabat's crackdown on sermons and preaching about the war prevent the rise of radicalism, or will it give roots to an anti-Israel undercurrent driven by banned Islamist outfits and opposition? Moving on to Ghana in West Africa. The country will hold presidential elections next month, and ahead of it, the 80-year-old outgoing president is facing a storm of criticism for revealing a giant golden statue, and the statue is of nobody else but himself. Now, Ghana's president, Nana Akufo-Addo, who will be standing down in January after 2 terms in power, unveiled a statue of himself during a tour of the country's western region. The statue has not been erected by the president himself, but its construction was ordered by the western region's minister, who calls it a way to thank the president for the work that he has done in the last 8 years. The president himself boasts of fulfilling around 80% of his promises to Ghanaians. But for the Ghana public, it is not enough of an achievement for the president to unveil a statue of himself. And social media is now flooded with posts mocking and criticizing the move. Now, many are seeing the outgoing president's unveiling of the statue as a way of self-glorification, and some are questioning the importance of the statue when several key projects remain incomplete. Many are also highlighting the dwindling state of the economy in the country. Opposition leaders have also joined in, with some saying that people of Western region deserve better than the self-serving displays. So many in Ghana are calling for the statue to be pulled down after the president leaves office. Now, the cost of the statue is confirmed to be around 30,000 Ghanaian cedi, which is over $1,800. But this is not the only indulgence that has placed the 80-year-old Ghanaian president in controversy. His pet project has sparked a major row in Ghana. The project is to build a national cathedral in the capital of Accra. It's a multi-denominational monumental undertaking to house religious services and state events. Its estimated cost, a whopping $400 million. When President Akufo-Addo won the 2016 elections, he pledged to build the site in the glory and honor of God, who he said was gracious enough to grant him victory. But Ghana's economy could not meet the president's aspirations. The country had to raise money in order to fund the project. So far, around $58 million have been pumped into the project. And this is what the president's aspirations for the project look like. And this is what it looks like today. Now, it's a massive hole surrounded by wild plants in the heart of Accra. This hole has collected so much water that the opposition calls it the world's most expensive swimming pool. The project is currently stalled due to a lack of funds, and its incomplete status is once again being highlighted amid the statue row. While the outgoing president is praised for some of his developmental steps, like building infrastructure and scrapping secondary school fees, he has had his fair share of challenges and controversies. He is also accused by the opposition for looting of state lands, among other corruption allegations. This is one among the many cases where African leaders are being accused of leading a luxurious life, while people in their country face multiple challenges. Some are deemed as flying presidents, while some are accused of vacationing to fix the economy. And the misplaced priorities of African leaders continues to bring such headlines from the region. And finally, to our special segment, Resurgent Africa. Amid the coups and the crises, there are many positive stories from Africa that often get overlooked, but not on this show. In Mali, activist and playwright Olivia Ouedraogo is challenging the culture of silence surrounding sexual violence with her powerful play Queen. Ouedraogo sheds light on the stigma and societal pressures that force many victims into silence. Her work serves as a rallying cry, urging women to reclaim their voices and seek justice, breaking down the barriers of shame and secrecy that persist in the patriarchal societies. Here's our report on how rape survivors are finding a voice in Mali.
Rape. Even the mere utterance of the word stirs an avalanche of emotions like anger, fear, and frustration. For many women, the aftermath becomes a burden of silence, one they carry to the grave. Yet, in recent years, there's been a seismic shift, a rallying cry urging women to break this silence, seek justice, and refuse to bear the shame. At the forefront of this movement is Olivia Ouedraogo from Mali, a woman determined to challenge the culture of secrecy and empower survivors to reclaim their voices. But most of all, she's doing all of this through theatre.
I cannot understand that you could be raped, and it's you who is considered dirty, trash. It's you who must hide from the world.
Under the dim glow of a single spotlight in a dark room, she holds up a piece of blood-stained fabric, her voice cutting through the quiet with a powerful declaration. Long live the girl.
What is the problem that pushed me to write this? Is that even these victims accept this? I'm saying no, you don't have the right to accept to submit to this, to be trampled on, accept this, accept that. No, no. I have to break this barrier of silence. And in Africa, the barriers are here. Too many.
This scene, however, is not real life, but part of Ouedraogo's stirring play, Queen. She tells the haunting story of a young girl raped by her stepfather on his wedding night. A dark family secret she chooses to defy by speaking out. Through this powerful narrative, Ouedraogo sheds light on the culture of silence that entraps so many victims of sexual violence. A silence that often shields abusers and leaves survivors isolated. Her motivation for Queen comes from her outrage over the stigma that forces victims to stay silent to maintain peace within their families.
Why did I propose this play here? Because one of our big problems today is the silence surrounding rape. All this rape and incest, whether it's in Europe, Africa, the West, everywhere, the United States. It causes scandals, but we don't talk about it often. So, at some point, we need to be able to confront the audience with these dark sides of ourselves.
Adama Traore, director of the ACT-SET Cultural Center, witnessed the impact of Queen firsthand. He emphasizes that although the play is a fictional work, it's a stark reflection of reality.
In Mali, I can say that in every family, we have girls that have been victims of rape, even in their schools. As you know, Mali is a patriarchal society, so these victims are forced to keep quiet, to not speak.
The statistics are harrowing. In Mali, where gender-based violence is rampant, a 2018 health survey by the Malian National Institute of Statistics revealed that 45% of women aged 15 to 49 have experienced physical or sexual violence. Yet, of those affected, 68% have never spoken a word of it to anyone. Queen is more than just a play. It's a call to action. As Widarago's message reverberates across theatres, she hopes that survivors everywhere hear it loud and clear. The power to reclaim their stories lies within them. In bringing the taboo to light, she's helping to break the chains of silence, urging a future where speaking out is seen as courage, not shame.
And that's it on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.